Enos, imagine a world hidden behind the facade of familiar reality, a world where not the laws of virtue, but the ruthless rules of survival govern, a world where every step you take is a chess game, and naivete is your most terrifying enemy. Today, we will unveil secrets that have for centuries both frightened and fascinated rulers and ordinary people alike. You will learn why one ancient book still evokes chilling dread and suspicious glances. We will show you how to avoid the traps set around us every day and how to become someone impossible to deceive. Prepare yourself, because after this story, the world will never be the same. True wisdom isn't merely memorizing formulas or skillfully repeating elegant concepts in polite conversation. Genuine, unyielding intelligence allows an individual to confidently navigate harsh reality without being completely consumed by it. It's the unique ability to see through deceptive masks, to recognize the intricate webs of hidden games, and to advance with almost surgical precision in a world overflowing with all kinds of traps. Less than 500 years ago, a work was published by a man named Niccolò Machiavelli. To this day, this guide remains one of the most unsettling and arguably most misunderstood texts in human history. His creation, known as The Prince, was far more than just a manual for rulers. It was a ruthless X-ray of human nature, an exhaustive description of how power truly functions, exposing its most unseemly sides. But why does this book still cause such profound unease? Why does the mere mention of Machiavelli's name in a serious conversation still generate suspicious glances and awkward silences? The answer, as is often the case, is both simple and unsettling, because he dared to reveal truths that the vast majority desperately prefer to ignore, hiding from them in comfortable ignorance. Here, in this story, we will lift the veil on how to apply a Machiavellian type of intelligence, but not to transform into a cruel tyrant, rather to become an individual impossible to mislead, a person who sees the world as it truly is, not as we wish it to be in our rosy dreams. It is no coincidence that there's a colossal difference between those who masterfully manage their own lives and those who, conversely, are completely managed by life, like a puppet. And this difference lies not in talent, not in the whims of luck or noble birth, but solely in applied, effective intelligence. Before embarking on the construction of this unyielding mind, it is crucial to dismantle the illusions that impede its full manifestation. Humanity's greatest tragedy is not pure evil, but profound naivete. It's the unwavering belief that the world operates strictly in accordance with our moral desires and notions of justice. If you observe the people around you closely, it becomes evident how many live their days clinging to comforting but deceptive narratives. If I am kind, I will surely be rewarded. Justice will always prevail, sooner or later. People value honesty above all else. These phrases undoubtedly sound beautiful and noble, but alas, they are pure poison for those who sincerely strive to grasp authentic reality. Machiavelli was a cynic not for idle pleasure, but a realist out of harsh necessity. He witnessed firsthand how mighty republics crumbled, how great princes were betrayed, how good, decent people were ruthlessly devoured by the cunning and treacherous. His conclusion was truly devastating. How one lives is so far removed from how one should live that he who abandons what is done for what should be done will learn sooner to bring about his own ruin than his preservation. Translating this into simpler language, one could say, he who stubbornly lives by the principle of how it should be will inevitably be destroyed by him who lives by the principle of how it is. Unyielding intelligence begins precisely with this cruel but necessary acceptance. The world is far from just. People are not inherently good and altruistic. Merit is not always duly rewarded, and he who refuses to accept these bitter truths will forever be influenced and manipulated by those who have already accepted them. Recall your own life. How many times have you shown naivete? How many times have you trusted empty, meaningless promises? How many times have you interpreted another person's self-interest as sincere, selfless kindness? Each of these experiences was invaluable, but alas, a very expensive lesson for which you paid a considerable price. The first and most important law of Machiavellian intelligence states, one should never project their own morality onto others. You may be a paragon of honesty, but that absolutely does not mean that everyone else will be honest with you in return. You may be limitlessly loyal, but that does not guarantee reciprocal loyalty. You may be incredibly generous, but that will not prevent others from exhibiting greed at your expense. This is not a recipe for becoming a bad person. No, it is a recipe for ceasing to be an easy target for those who are willing to exploit your kindness. When you finally abandon naivete, something truly amazing happens. You stop being shocked by betrayals, surprised by lies, disappointed by human nature. And it is in this absence of shock that astonishing clarity is born. Clarity is not pessimism, it is rather precision of perception. It is the ability to see people as they truly are, not as we think they should be. And this crystal clear vision is the first unshakable pillar of unyielding intelligence. Machiavelli observed what the vast majority of people stubbornly refuse to accept. Human beings are driven primarily by two powerful motives: fear and self-interest. He who thoroughly understands these fundamental motives can predict the behavior of others with almost frightening accuracy. People judge more by the eye than by the hand, Machiavelli wrote, and profound wisdom is embedded in this phrase. All can see, few can feel. Perhaps if Machiavelli had remained in the shadows, his thoughts would not have caused such a storm of controversy. Or perhaps, if his ideas had been accepted without condemnation, the world would have become more honest, though harsher. What do you think? Did humanity have a chance to apply his lessons without fear and prejudice? Or was the outcome, where his name became synonymous with cunning, inevitable? Share in the comments at what point, in your opinion, society definitively stumbled by not embracing his truths. If this story resonated with you, give it a like. And to not miss new dramas and revelations, subscribe to the channel. Here we talk about those whose wisdom was genuine, but whose price was too high. What if I told you that every step you take, every word, every thought is merely a mask? What if behind the curtains of power and everyday life, unseen threads control destinies, and the world we see is just an artfully crafted illusion? Today we will plunge into the abyss of human psychology, where true motives are exposed and secrets that seemed unbreakable crumble to dust. You will learn about those who masterfully build empires on the delusions of others, and about those who, unaware of these rules, paid the most terrible price. Prepare to see the world as only a select few do, and believe me, after this, your life will never be the same. There is an ancient truth whispered in the corridors of power: few can feel. This means that the decisions people make are rarely dictated by harsh reality. They are born from perception, from the mental image of the world they have formed. And herein lies the great drama. This perception, like clay in the hands of a master, can be shaped, molded, and directed to create illusions that become more powerful than facts. Genuine, relentless intelligence is not just the ability to see, it is the capacity to pierce through the veil of words and actions to reveal the true, deepest interests of those around you. Not the desires they openly declare, but the secret springs that truly drive their actions. Not what they demonstratively value, but what they persistently pursue when they are sure no one is watching, when their masks are off. Let's imagine this wisdom in action, like a scene from someone's life. You work at a large company, and one day you notice your boss starting to hold private conversations with specific colleagues. At first, it's just a vague observation. This is level 1. You simply note the fact of the meetings without attaching much significance to them. But then, your internal antenna begins to pick up something more. This is level 2. You realize that something subtly changes in the usual team dynamic. The air thickens, tension mounts. And then comes the third crucial level. You don't just see changes, you anticipate an impending restructuring. And armed with this knowledge, you manage to secure an advantageous position long before the official announcement shakes the office walls, turning many into victims of circumstance. Strategic observation is the art of reading between the lines, of hearing the unspoken. The great Machiavelli, more than anyone else, understood this cruel truth. Words, alas, often lie, but repeated patterns of behavior never. They, like silent witnesses, always tell the authentic story. At times, a person might assure you of the absence of any problems, of complete loyalty. But if you notice that they consistently avoid joint projects, if their responses to your messages arrive with a noticeable delay, and if you are now systematically excluded from informal conversations, then this recurring pattern of behavior screams of a completely different reality, of unexpressed but deep alienation. Another critically important aspect of keen observation is identifying hidden hierarchies, the secret structures of power. In any collective, be it court etiquette or a modern office, there are always two hierarchies. One is formal, that which is written in charters and organizational charts, open for public view. The other is real, invisible to the eye, but it is there in its depths that true power pulsates, where the real currents of influence flow. Who truly makes key decisions? Whose unofficial word is final? Who can veto projects without having any formal authority? The answers to these questions open your eyes to the true state of affairs. The third law of Machiavellian intelligence, forged in the crucible of countless intrigues, states, "One should observe far more than speak, doubt more than mindlessly affirm, and always, absolutely always, even in the most casual and relaxed situations, keep a part of your mind in analytical scanning mode." Developing this insightful ability to observe doesn't just change your view of the world, it turns it upside down. You stop being caught off guard by sudden changes that were actually signaled for weeks, even months, unnoticed by the majority. You no longer fall into obvious traps that once seemed invisible, like ghosts. The world becomes more transparent, and you become more invulnerable. Machiavelli, that titan of thought, perfectly understood that power is not only possessing knowledge, but also the masterful ability to communicate what you know. Language, in his conviction, is simultaneously the most potent weapon in your arsenal and your greatest vulnerability. Use it carelessly, and you unnecessarily expose yourself, making yourself a target. Use it skillfully, with surgical precision, and you begin to shape realities, to create worlds according to your design. The first rule of Machiavellian communication is the strictest economy of information. You should not and need not share absolutely everything you know with everyone you encounter. Information is invaluable power, and power shared indiscriminately, thoughtlessly dispersed, is power lost forever. This is not a call for constant lying. No, it is a call to be extremely strategic about when, how, and with whom you choose to share a morsel of truth. Some chosen few deserve your complete transparency, full openness. Others only need the necessary information for a specific interaction. And a third group, alas, deserves nothing but basic, formal courtesy. Machiavelli was a true master, capable of speaking the truth in a way that served his own, sometimes subtle, purposes. Speak the truth so that you are not believed. This was one of his favorite techniques, a subtle psychological ploy. At times, complete unvarnished honesty regarding your true intentions can destabilize an opponent far more than any, even the most carefully constructed, lie. The second rule is iron control over the timing of your messages. It's not just what you say that matters, but precisely when you say it. Information delivered at the right, precisely timed moment can completely, radically change the course of any situation, turning it in your favor. The same information may be uttered at an inappropriate moment can prove not just useless but frankly harmful, causing irreparable damage. Observe people's behavior. True masters of this game do it intuitively, as if it's their second nature. They never respond immediately to provocations. They allow tension to build, to grow before striking back with surgical precision. They don't announce their grand plans prematurely, don't show their cards too soon. They patiently await the exact moment when the announcement will have maximum, devastating impact. They don't rush to clarify misunderstandings right away. Sometimes they consciously allow others to reveal their true intentions in the general commotion, while they themselves remain in the shadows. And finally, the third rule, master the art of strategic ambiguity. You don't always need to be absolutely crystal clear. Sometimes, by deliberately leaving room for multiple interpretations, you force others to reveal their own motives, their true intentions. When someone is not entirely sure of your position, of your intentions, they tend to expose their cards, trying to figure out yours, succumbing to the temptation to show themselves to test the waters. Was this piercing clarity a gift or a curse for those who possessed it? Is such power worth the lonely summit it leaves one on? Tell us in the comments which of these lessons, in your opinion, is the most dangerous, and which is the most essential for survival in the modern world. If this story made you reflect, support it with a like. And to not miss new chapters about destinies where the price of success was measured not only in triumphs but also in invisible scars, subscribe to the channel. Here we talk about those who saw the world without embellishment and paid their price for it. Have you ever wondered what lies behind the facade of power and success? What secrets do the great strategists of the past hold, whose lessons still permeate the fabric of our reality? Today we will delve into a world where every word is a weapon and every silence is a tactical move. We will uncover secrets that may shock, yet simultaneously inspire a reevaluation of familiar concepts of conflict, struggle, and victory. Prepare to learn how one thoughtless word can lead to disaster and why sometimes retreat is the greatest victory. Watch until the end to understand the price of true superiority and how to avoid the traps that await everyone who dares to strive for more. Throughout human history, individuals of extraordinary intellect have always striven to carefully conceal their true intentions, deftly attempting to uncover those of others. It was a subtle game, where every word, every gesture, carried meaning. Indeed, Machiavelli profoundly understood the incredible power of correctly posed questions. A single, masterfully formulated interrogative sentence can prove far more devastating than any direct accusation. Imagine, Burshe, do you truly believe that? At times, this phrase sounds far more convincing and piercing than long and exhausting arguments aimed at proving someone wrong. And of course, body language is another, without exaggeration, crucial component of this complex system. Your mouth may utter one thing, but if your physical presence conveys uncertainty, clear nervousness, or deep unease, then the true, authentic message you send to the world will be entirely different. Machiavellian intelligence, that ruthless and perceptive mind, invariably includes vigilant and conscious control over one's physical manifestation, over every movement and expression. And finally, there is the truly subtle art of strategic silence. Knowing precisely when to remain silent is just as critically important as understanding what needs to be said. Silence can be intimidating. It can compel others to fill the resulting void with a stream of valuable information. It demonstrates superior, almost superhuman emotional control. The fourth commandment of Machiavellian intelligence, as if carved in stone, states, treat every word you utter as a move in a complex chess game. Carefully weigh all possible reactions, anticipate potential responses, and always, absolutely always, keep several alternative moves in reserve. Machiavelli, like no other, understood that conflicts are an inherent part of the life path of anyone who strives for something more than mere mediocrity. He who diligently avoids all confrontations simultaneously deprives himself of all opportunities for growth and development. This could very well have been one of his fundamental maxims. Relentless intelligence does not seek unnecessary battles, but neither does it fear them when they become inevitable. The first key distinction that must be grasped lies between genuine adversaries and so-called temporary opposition. True adversaries are individuals whose fundamental interests are absolutely irreconcilable with yours. They are in fundamental contradiction. Temporary opposition, however, refers to people who simply hold different opinions on certain matters, but under other circumstances could well become your allies. To treat temporary opposition as true enemies is to create absolutely unnecessary opponents for yourself. But to perceive true adversaries as temporary opposition is to allow them to inflict harm upon you while you naively attempt to engage in dialogue with those who are completely uninterested in a genuine resolution of the situation. Regarding true adversaries, Machiavelli adhered to a simple yet strikingly direct rule. If you must injure a man, do it in such a fashion that you have no need to fear his revenge. Translating this into modern terms, when it becomes necessary to take decisive action against someone actively working against your interests, do so comprehensively and definitively. Naturally, this in no way implies physical harm. It means that half measures often inflict more damage than complete inaction. If you intend to expose someone's incompetence, possess irrefutable evidence. If you exit a partnership, ensure your interests are fully protected. If you decide to sever a toxic relationship, leave no loopholes for future manipulation. The second rule states, never underestimate your adversary by succumbing to anger or pride. Machiavelli observed countless rulers fall from the heights of power simply because they refuse to acknowledge the true capabilities of those who oppose them. Coldly analyze the strengths and weaknesses of your opponents, regardless of how deeply you may personally despise them. The third rule calls for carefully choosing your battles. Not every conflict is worth fighting. Some confrontations consume far more energy than any potential victory could ever compensate for. Others are merely distractions from more significant goals. Always ask yourself, what exactly will I gain if I prevail in this conflict? Is it worth the expenditure of time, energy, and other valuable resources? Is there another way to achieve my true objective without engaging in this particular struggle? Machiavelli also deeply understood the importance of the ability to retreat. To live to fight another day is not an act of cowardice when it is a conscious, strategic choice. Sometimes accepting a minor defeat allows you to preserve precious resources for future, far more significant victories. In the midst of conflict, maintain multiple channels of information. What exactly are your opponents doing? What plans are they hatching? Who are they trying to draw to their side? Information is your primary advantage in any confrontation. Finally, there is the art of concluding conflicts. It is crucial to know when a battle is won and when it is time to stop. Continuing to attack an already defeated opponent can turn them into a martyr and elicit sympathy. The ability to offer a dignified exit from a situation can transform yesterday's enemy into a future ally. Why do you think some people achieve greatness, while others, possessing similar talents, fade into obscurity? Perhaps the secret lies not only in the ability to fight, but also in the capacity to analyze dispassionately and retreat at the right moment. Share in the comments which of Machiavelli's lessons you found most relevant in the modern world. If this story made you ponder, give it a like. And to not miss new captivating tales about those who shaped history and the price they paid for it, subscribe to the channel. The deepest mysteries of human nature, hidden behind the veil of centuries, sometimes shed light on history's most shameful and terrifying pages. What if I told you that the greatest minds of the past not only observed the world but also created something so powerful that it still shapes our destinies? Today we will peer into the abyss where genius clashes with ruthlessness, where triumph is born from the cruelest decisions. Are you ready to discover the horrifying truth hidden behind the facade of power and how one ancient thinker, whose name evokes both awe and revulsion, predicted the most scandalous turns of our modernity? Stay with us until the end to not miss shocking revelations that will forever change your perception of the world. Within the labyrinths of Machiavellian thought, where every step is measured and deliberate, lies a sixth, truly fundamental commandment of intelligence. Perceive conflicts as nothing less than a delicate surgical operation. This means that any confrontation, if it becomes inevitable, must be conducted with extreme precision, like a master's scalpel. The goal is always the same, to restore the integrity and health of the entire system, not to cause chaotic destruction. This is not merely a principle. It is a philosophy that allows one to see a path to renewal amidst the chaos of battle. One of the most underestimated and at times completely ignored aspects of Machiavellian wisdom is strategic patience. This is not the passivity that merely waits for problems to dissipate on their own, like morning fog. No, it is an active, purposeful waiting, akin to a game of chess where every opponent's move is anticipated several steps ahead. A true strategist understands that the opportune moment for action can multiply its effectiveness, transforming a modest effort into a resounding triumph. Machiavelli, that titan of thought, shrewdly observed, "He who rushes into battle thoughtlessly will almost always encounter the bitterness of regret, but he who never dares to take a step is also destined for regret." True wisdom lies in the ability to distinguish those rare opportunities that demand immediate, lightning-fast intervention from those situations that, on the contrary, will only benefit from additional time, like wine that needs to mature. The first facet of this strategic patience is the ability to allow circumstances to ripen naturally. How many problems, seemingly insurmountable, disappeared on their own simply by not interfering prematurely, by not acting rashly? How many vaguely defined prospects became crystal clear if one waited? Observing carefully before committing oneself. This is especially pertinent in the intricate tapestry of human destinies. Someone who seems to be a source of difficulty today may simply be going through their own personal hell. An opportunity that beckons with its impeccability may harbor hidden traps, as yet unseen by the naked eye. Giving a situation time means allowing it to reveal its secrets, to expose vital information that would otherwise remain hidden. The second facet is the extraordinary ability to endure temporary discomfort if it serves as a stepping stone to truly outstanding results. Most people, driven by instinct, make decisions aimed at immediate relief, even if those decisions will lead to far greater troubles in the future. Machiavellian intelligence changes this paradigm. It teaches one to accept current inconveniences as payment for future success. You are willing to withstand tension in grueling negotiations to secure the best terms. You steadfastly endure temporary reproaches and criticism, knowing that you are implementing necessary, albeit painful, changes. You resist the impulse to immediately respond to a provocation, choosing the most effective moment for your move. The third facet is the humble acknowledgement that the full realization of some triumphs requires years, and sometimes even decades. We live in an era obsessed with instant gratification, where everything must happen here and now at the snap of a finger. But the deepest, most significant achievements in life are not flashes but prolonged processes. Deep, unbreakable relationships, true, genuine experience, the creation of authentic, lasting wealth, the development of unshakable influence. All of this unfolds not in a day or a year, but over many years, like a mighty tree whose roots run deep into the soil of time. Strategic patience, paradoxically, also includes the art of knowing when to act swiftly, when to accelerate. When all conditions align, when an opportunity is ripe to its fullest, when your resources are perfectly organized and ready for battle, that is when the moment for decisive, uncompromising action arrives. Patience must never be disguised in decision. It must not turn into paralysis of will. Machiavelli drew a striking analogy. A wise ruler is like an experienced hunter. He can wait for hours, unmoving, for the ideal moment when the prey is precisely in his sights. But when that moment comes, he does not hesitate for a second. His shot is swift and precise. Another very practical application of strategic patience manifests in conflicts. When someone tries to unbalance you, to provoke an emotional, thoughtless reaction, your best response is often not to react instantly. Let them reveal their true intentions. Let them show their true colors. Allow others to observe their behavior, their impulsiveness. Only then, when you respond, will your answer be perceived as measured, deliberate, and absolutely justified, rather than an emotional outburst. Strategic patience gains particular power in building a reputation. Your good name, your standing in society, is formed not by one random act, but by a consistent sequence of actions over a long period. A single, isolated event rarely defines how others perceive you, but a consistent pattern of behavior, demonstrated over months and years, creates a solid, unshakable perception of your character. And now we come to the seventh commandment of Machiavellian intelligence, which echoes through the ages. Treat time as your most reliable, most faithful ally. Use it for deep observation, for meticulous planning, for skillfully positioning your forces. But always be ready to act decisively, like lightning, when that one precisely right moment arrives. Machiavelli lived in an era of continuous upheaval, when the world around him changed with kaleidoscopic speed. States emerged from oblivion and faded into obscurity. Alliances formed only to dissolve immediately like houses of cards. Military technologies underwent true revolutions, changing the face of war. His greatest insight was that adaptability, not rigid inflexibility, was the key to survival and, moreover, to genuine success. It is better to be impetuous than cautious, he wrote, because fortune is a woman, and if you wish to master her, you must surprise her, challenge her. But he also perfectly understood that true adaptability extends far beyond mere reactivity. It is the ability to maintain one's core principles, one's unshakable foundations, while simultaneously adjusting tactics and methods in accordance with constantly changing circumstances. This story is just one of countless echoes of a great drama that unfolded over centuries, where every person, like Machiavelli, faces their own choices. Did he have a chance to avoid the price he paid for his insights? Or was the end of his life predetermined by the very nature of his genius? What do you think? At what point did his teachings become not just a philosophy, but part of the very fabric of power that still shapes our world today? Share your opinion in the comments. If this story resonated with you, give it a like. And to not miss new dramas where fame was real, but the price was too high, subscribe to the channel. Silenced. Through the centuries, echoes of voices reach us, whispering secrets of power and influence. Today we will lift the veil on one of history's most controversial, yet insightful figures. His name has become synonymous with cunning. But what if there's more to this reputation? What if his lessons are the key to survival in a world where rules change faster than you can comprehend them? We will delve into the depths of his philosophy to understand how to stay afloat when everything around you crumbles, how to foresee storms that are just brewing on the horizon, and how to gain true influence that no money can buy. Some of his methods may seem shocking, others ingenious, but one thing is certain. This story will make you rethink everything you thought you knew about power and human nature. Are you ready to learn the price of genuine dominion? A life path marked by the relentless pursuit of success in a volatile world demanded constant readiness for transformation. The first step on this thorny road was the realization of a simple yet harsh truth. What bore fruit yesterday might turn to dust tomorrow. The world doesn't stand still. People change and technology hurtles forward at dizzying speed. Stubbornly clinging to outdated methods means condemning oneself to defeat, to slow but inevitable oblivion. However, this is not a call for a complete abandonment of the past. On the contrary, it is the delicate art of discernment, the ability to distinguish those fundamental principles that remain unshakable, like rocks in a stormy sea, from those specific techniques that must constantly evolve, like a living organism. Your deepest convictions about honesty may remain unchanged, but the ways in which that honesty is expressed, its outward forms, can undergo colossal changes depending on the circumstances in which you find yourself. But what if that's not enough? What if you need to see impending changes even before they fully manifest in the world? The second level of this wisdom is the gift of foresight, the ability to detect subtle fluctuations in the environment that portend coming upheavals, while for most they remain invisible. Machiavelli was a true virtuoso in this art. Like a seismograph, he sensed the approach of political earthquakes long before their tremors began to shake the earth. This early, almost intuitive perception allowed him to adjust his course, to maneuver while others were still vainly trying to grasp what was happening around them. In our time, this means unwavering attention to the slightest changes in the technological landscape, cultural currents, economic trends, and social connections. And it's not just about the obvious shifts that everyone is talking about, but also those subtle nuances that are just beginning to emerge on the horizon. And now we come to the third level, to the very essence of tactical flexibility, to possessing an entire arsenal of options for any, even the most unpredictable, situation. Machiavelli, as is well known, never tired of giving advice. He strongly recommended that rulers always have not only Plan A, but also Plans B and C for any important matter. If one approach proved untenable, they could instantly switch to another without losing precious time or rhythm. In practice, this means not fully committing to a single strategy until you are absolutely sure of its perfection. It is crucial to keep all doors open, to develop diverse connections, to master a wide range of skills, and to create resources that can be used in many different ways. But there is more than just tactics. The adaptability we are discussing also includes the subtle art of situational emotional intelligence. The way you build your relationships with people must constantly change, like a chameleon, depending on the context, their individual characteristics, and the goals of your interaction. With some interlocutors, it is necessary to be extremely direct. With others, to be more diplomatic, seeking detours. With some, you can be absolutely frank, holding nothing back, while with others, you are more strategic in what information you share. This is not pretense or hypocrisy. It is rather a manifestation of higher social competence. It is a deep understanding that different circumstances demand different versions of yourself, and all of them, without exception, are genuine but always adapted to the specific situation. And yet, even such comprehensive adaptability has its limits. Machiavelli understood this perfectly. There are unbreakable boundaries that cannot be crossed, no matter how complex and hopeless the circumstances may seem. By defining these boundaries in advance, one can prevent rash, ruinous decisions under pressure from a critical situation. Machiavellian adaptability also includes an astonishing ability to change roles, like an actor on a stage as needed. Sometimes you will need to be an undisputed leader, guiding others. Sometimes a loyal follower, supporting others' ideas. At times you will be on the front lines, taking the hits, and at times you will work behind the scenes, invisible to outsiders. Sometimes you will be an inspired visionary, and sometimes a practical implementer, bringing dreams to reality. And so, finally, we arrive at the eighth law of Machiavellian intelligence, which echoes ancient wisdom. Remain flexible in your methods to steadfastly pursue your fundamental goals. Recall a tree that bends under the force of a storm wind. It survives the tempest, while a rigid, unyielding tree breaks and falls. True influence does not come from official positions or impressive titles that can be bought or acquired. It stems from your ability to persuade others to see the value in following your direction, in adopting your ideas. Machiavelli deeply understood that true power is not imposed by force, not dictated from above, but acknowledged and accepted voluntarily, like an unwritten law. So what is the first, unshakable source of this genuine influence? It is undoubtedly demonstrated competence. People by their nature follow those whom they deeply believe can lead them where they themselves wish to go. This means you must be truly good at something that others value. Not just good enough, but demonstrably excellent, beyond any doubt. But competence alone, as history shows, is not enough. The world is full of examples of extraordinarily talented and competent people who never managed to develop significant influence. The difference that separates success from oblivion lies in the ability to convey this competence in a way that resonates with the interests of others, so that they see a benefit for themselves. And finally, the second equally important source is reliability. Machiavelli, with his characteristic insight, noted that promises made in times of need are easily forgotten in times of prosperity. Genuine influence requires unwavering consistency between your words and your actions over a long period, especially in those moments when being consistent is extremely inconvenient or even disadvantageous. This does not mean you should make impossible promises just to please others. It means that the promises you do make must be fulfilled unfailingly, without the slightest hesitation. It is far wiser to promise less, but deliver more than to promise the moon and ultimately bring only disappointment. This story is not just a set of rules. It is a mirror into which we can gaze to see how far we are willing to go for our goals. Perhaps Machiavelli's lessons will seem cynical to you, but doesn't he merely reveal what has always been part of human nature? Do you think it's possible to be truly influential without sacrificing your principles? Or is the price for true power always too high? Write in the comments which of these lessons you found most difficult to accept. If this profound drama moved you, give it a like. And to not miss new stories about those whose fame was real, but the price was too high, subscribe to the channel. We often think we know everything about power and influence. But what if the most terrifying secrets of ancient sages remain hidden? What if methods that once changed the course of history could be in your hands, but the price for them might be too high? Today, we will delve into the darkest corners of human psychology, where the line between genius and madness blurs, and every step forward can turn into a personal tragedy. Prepare to discover how great minds achieve their goals, and why their triumphs were often just a prelude to unthinkable losses and disappointments. Stay with us until the end to not miss shocking revelations that will make you reevaluate everything you thought you knew about influence. The third source of influence is that astounding ability to see, and more importantly, to articulate the invisible connections that elude the gaze of most. True influence is born from a truly unique perspective. If you merely echo what has long become commonplace, your presence becomes superfluous. But if you can open people's eyes to angles and facets of reality they never conceived of, then your viewpoint begins to acquire priceless value for them. Niccolo Machiavelli was a genuine virtuoso in this art. He could analyze the most complex political intricacies with astonishing depth, identifying patterns and foreseeing consequences that remained invisible to less discerning observers. This exceptional analytical power transformed into tangible, practical influence, altering the course of events. The fourth source is the unerring timeliness in presenting ideas. The same thought, the same concept, can be either a brilliant insight or a completely irrelevant conjecture, and it all depends solely on the precise moment it is articulated. Genuine influence demands exceptional sensitivity to the right moment to introduce new concepts, make proposals, or initiate changes. This closely echoes the strategic patience we discussed earlier, but goes significantly further. Here, it's about a deep understanding of your audience's emotional and mental state, the ability to recognize when people are open to embracing new ideas and when they will fiercely resist any change. The fifth source of influence is the remarkable ability to make other people feel valued without diminishing your own dignity. 1 iota. Machiavelli perfectly understood that people readily follow leaders who give them a sense of their own importance. And this does not mean fake saccharine flattery, but rather a sincere and profound acknowledgement of each person's contribution. True influence also requires the skill of creating winners. When people begin to associate you with their successes, they naturally seek even greater interaction with you. But when they link your name with failures or numerous problems, they just as naturally begin to distance themselves, avoiding contact. Finally, there is influence through personal example. Your actions, your deeds, will always speak much louder than any words. When those around you observe how you handle immense pressure, how you treat those in lower positions, how you honor your commitments, they form impressions that ultimately determine the depth of their respect for your opinion. The ninth law of Machiavellian intelligence states, build influence through the consistent demonstration of your own value, rather than through manipulation or the application of brute force. True influence is always voluntarily granted by people who genuinely recognize your merits. The difference between merely reacting to events and actively shaping them lies in one single ability: foresight. Machiavelli didn't just passively observe what was happening around him. He predicted future scenarios with astonishing accuracy and meticulously prepared for a wide range of possibilities. This remarkable ability to see beyond the horizon is one of the most powerful and defining characteristics of strategic intelligence. Foresight begins with the relentless recognition of patterns. Human history, of course, doesn't repeat precisely like an echo, but it rhymes remarkably. Conflicts, alliances, periods of ascent and decline, all follow recognizable models. Those who diligently study these patterns can identify the earliest signs of significant changes to come. In your personal and professional life, this means carefully observing cycles. Relationships go through predictable phases. Markets experience cyclical movements. Organizations undergo periods of rapid growth, then stabilization, and finally change. Understanding where you are in each cycle allows you to prepare in advance for what comes next. The second dimension of foresight is what is known as scenario thinking. Instead of naively assuming that the future will merely be a linear continuation of the present, a strategic mind considers a multitude of diverse possibilities. If this happens, then that will follow. If that doesn't happen, then something else will occur. Machiavelli always strongly recommended having alternative plans, not because he was a pathological pessimist, but because he deeply understood that reality very rarely unfolds exactly as we expect. Having pre-prepared options allows for quick adaptation to changing circumstances without losing momentum or initiative. The third dimension is a deep analysis of incentives. When you understand what motivates the people and organizations around you, you can predict with astonishing accuracy how they will behave in various circumstances. Individuals may seem unpredictable on their own, but they become quite predictable once you grasp their fundamental incentives. This applies to markets, politics, personal relationships, and organizational dynamics. Always ask yourself, what incentives are at play here right now? How might these incentives change in the future? What behaviors will these new incentives create? This story of Machiavelli, like many others, makes us ponder the price of true influence. He saw the world without adornment, but his insights cost him immense personal sacrifices. Perhaps if he hadn't been so perceptive, his life would have unfolded differently, more peacefully, but likely less significant. Do you think he had a chance to avoid the drama that became part of his legacy? Or was the ending inevitable for a man capable of seeing so far ahead? Share in the comments at what point, in your opinion, he fully realized the weight of his path. If this story resonates with you, give it a like. And to not miss new dramas, subscribe to the channel. Here we talk about those whose fame was real, but the price too high. Let's begin our deep dive into a world where every step can be fatal and every decision a judgment. Today, we will unveil the secrets of those who didn't just live, but survived, balancing on the edge of an abyss. You will learn how some leaders lost everything due to one misstep, while others, seemingly doomed, rose from the ashes. What lies behind the facade of great victories and crushing defeats? Why do some stories end in triumph, while others fade into complete oblivion? Prepare yourself, for you are about to hear a tale of psychological traps, hidden threats, and those moments when fate offers only one chance. Watch to the end to not miss the most shocking revelations that will forever change your understanding of power and survival. The fourth dimension we explore is the identification of those very tipping points. Moments when even the most seemingly insignificant changes can trigger cascading, disproportionately grand consequences. These critical moments, like invisible doors, open opportunities for strategic interventions capable of drastically altering the trajectory of an entire situation. Recall tense negotiations, where there is often a single phrase, a single gesture, that can completely turn the tide depending on how a specific issue is resolved, or in personal relationships, where sometimes a single conversation becomes a watershed, determining the future. In life, in the professional sphere, there are decisions that, like powerful switches, either open entirely new paths before us or close them forever. And this remarkable ability to recognize such critical moments and act accordingly is precisely what distinguishes those who shape their own destiny from those who merely passively submit to it. Foresight, true foresight, always includes deep psychological preparation. When a person considers in advance how they would react to a variety of scenarios, they cannot be caught off guard emotionally. They have already processed all possible developments and are therefore able to react with astonishing clarity of mind, rather than succumbing to panic. The great Machiavelli, observing history, noted how many outstanding leaders made truly fatal mistakes simply because they were not psychologically prepared for certain unexpected contingencies. They had all the necessary resources and deep knowledge, but it was the element of surprise that paralyzed their will and constrained their actions. And finally, effective foresight requires extraordinary courage to act, even with incomplete information. For no one will ever be absolutely certain about tomorrow. If one waits for complete, 100% certainty, it will usually be too late to take any preventive measures or seize the opportunities that are rapidly emerging on the horizon. The 11th law of Machiavellian intellect proclaims, cultivate within yourself this unique ability to see hidden patterns, build complex multidimensional scenarios, and position yourself to be ready for a multitude of future possibilities. For the future, like the echo of ages, belongs to those who prepare for it, not to those who merely passively react to its ebbs and flows. But all this knowledge, however deep and extensive, remains absolutely useless without effective implementation. For Machiavelli was not merely an armchair theorist. He was, first and foremost, a pragmatist, a man of action. His wise advice was based on careful observation of what truly yielded results in the real, often harsh world, not on abstract, detached theories about how everything should ideally work. The first and often most insidious obstacle to implementation is what is known as analysis paralysis. One can endlessly study a situation, delve into details, but never take a single action. The strategic mind perfectly understands that ideal, complete information is never available, and that it is often much better to act with 70% of the information at the right, decisive moment than to possess 90%, but only when the time has irrevocably passed. Machiavelli wisely noted that he who hesitates too long will surely miss the opportunity he could have immediately seized. This is not a call to impulsive actions, no. It is rather a call to recognize that critical moment when you have enough data to make a reasonable, well-considered decision. The second serious obstacle is resistance to change, both from oneself and from those around you. Implementing strategic insights often requires altering long-established patterns of behavior, and any changes inevitably provoke resistance. The key to success lies in anticipating this resistance and developing ways to minimize it. This might mean gradual, phased implementation of changes to allow time for adaptation. It might require clear and convincing communication about the benefits these changes will bring. It is always better to start with less significant transformations that clearly demonstrate their value before embarking on more extensive changes. The third barrier, which often becomes a stumbling block, is the lack of systems for tracking progress. Many brilliant strategies fail not because the idea itself was flawed, but because mechanisms were not created to monitor progress and make necessary adjustments. Machiavellian intellect includes creating powerful feedback loops that allow for prompt course corrections. This means clearly defining specific metrics for success even before any action begins. It implies establishing regular checkpoints to assess progress. And critically, it means being willing to change tactics without hesitation if results do not meet initial expectations. The fourth dimension of implementation is the skillful management of limited resources. You will never have unlimited time, inexhaustible energy, or boundless funds. Part of strategic wisdom lies in choosing with surgical precision where to direct your valuable resources to achieve maximum effect. This often means foregoing opportunities that may seem very attractive but do not actually align with your primary goals. It requires ruthless prioritization, the ability to cut out the unnecessary, and it means accepting the fact that you cannot do absolutely everything and focusing on what is most important, most critical for achieving success. So what ultimately doomed those who, it seemed, were destined for greatness? Did they have a chance to change everything? Or was the ending inevitable? Write in the comments at what point, in your opinion, the hero of the story finally stumbled. If this story resonates with you, give it a like. And to not miss new dramas and triumphs, subscribe to the channel. Here we talk about those whose fame was real, but the price for it, too high. Prepare to learn about the secret teachings that for centuries have whispered into the ears of those who crave power and influence. Today we will pull back the curtain on the most controversial of all philosophers, a man whose name has become synonymous with cunning and ruthlessness. But what if I told you that behind these dark precepts lies something much greater than mere cynicism? What if Machiavelli's most terrifying advice is actually the key to genuine triumph, not trivial ruin? You will learn why so many great figures fell while trying to follow ideals, and why one single, seemingly simple principle can change the course of your destiny. Prepare for revelations that may shock you, but which you are obligated to hear to the end, for your own life is at stake, and it will never be the same. The fifth dimension, as it turns out, is not a mystical realm, but something far more tangible and vitally important: intelligent and indomitable persistence. The path to realizing plans is rarely smooth, like a straight line on a map. It is strewn with unexpected obstacles, bitter defeats, and moments when doubts, like predators, are ready to tear apart one's will. And here, at this crossroads, the difference between those who achieve their desires and those who fail lies in a single ability: the skill to move forward, overcoming the first, most painful trials. But this persistence must not be blind and reckless. It must be discerning, like the gaze of an experienced strategist. This means being able to recognize where before you is merely temporary resistance that can be overcome, and where are fundamental, deep-seated problems that urgently require a radical change of course, a complete revision of tactics. The great Machiavelli, that titan of thought, had a very curious view on the nature of failures related to implementation. It is better to fail in implementing an imperfect strategy than never to dare attempt an ideal one. This experience, the experience of bringing plans to reality, even if it does not culminate in complete success, becomes an invaluable repository of lessons that, like a foundation, are laid for all subsequent attempts. Effective implementation also requires crystal clear and unmistakable communication with everyone involved in the process. Each participant must not only understand exactly what is being done, but also realize why it is happening and what specific role they play in this grand spectacle. Uncertainty, like a poisonous fog, breeds resistance and sometimes even hidden sabotage, destroying everything from within. And finally, the pinnacle of wisdom and implementation is knowing when to stop. Not every strategy must be brought to its logical conclusion, especially if circumstances have changed beyond recognition. The ability to change course in time, or even abandon the initial approach, is just as important as the ability to persevere to the very end. The 13th law of Machiavellian intellect, as if carved in stone, states, "Value imperfect implementation above the most ideal planning." For the real world is nothing less than a vast laboratory where ideas are subjected to rigorous testing and acquire their final refined form. We have completed this fascinating journey through the labyrinths of Machiavellian intelligence principles. But remember, the end of knowledge is merely the prelude to true application. Everything we have discussed here will remain nothing more than theory, gathering dust on the shelves of the mind, until you begin to implement these ideas into your daily reality. The transformation of an ordinary consciousness into a ruthless yet insightful mind does not happen overnight. It is a long and painstaking process that develops through constant practice, honest and deep self-reflection, and continuous, sometimes painful adjustments. Every situation that arises in your life becomes a unique opportunity to apply these principles and deepen your understanding. Remember, Machiavelli did not seek to create evil people. He was obsessed with the idea of creating effective individuals capable of navigating the world as it truly is, without embellishments or illusions, rather than as we would wish it to be in our dreams. Machiavellian intelligence is nothing less than a powerful tool, and like any tool, it can be used for both creation and destruction. The choice of how exactly to apply these profound insights rests entirely with you. You can use them to manipulate others for your own benefit. And yes, it will work, but only for a while, or you can apply them to create genuine value in the world, to build relationships based on mutual respect, and to develop influence that benefits not only you but everyone around you. The second option not only promises to be more sustainable in the long term, but also inevitably leads to a much more satisfying and truly meaningful life. Ruthless intelligence is not a call to become cold or heartless. It is a call to clarity. It is the ability to see reality without the distorting filters that cloud your judgment. It is the skill to understand human motives without falling into cynicism toward humanity itself. It is the development of the strategic competence without losing the ability to form genuine, deep connections. In us, more than ever, the world needs individuals capable of combining strategic wisdom with unwavering moral integrity. People who can navigate the most intricate political labyrinths without compromising their fundamental values. Individuals who can be both realistic about human nature and optimistic about human potential. This is the true legacy of Machiavelli, not a philosophy of cynicism and manipulation, but a robust foundation for ethical effectiveness in the real world. It is the ability to be both wise as a serpent and innocent as a dove, to borrow an ancient metaphor. Now you have the tools and the map is laid out before you. The journey of transformation is just beginning. Every decision you make from this moment on is a unique opportunity to apply these principles and discover exactly how they work in your specific life. Unflinching intelligence is not a destination you reach once and then maintain forever. It is a continuous process of refinement, a discipline you practice daily, a set of mental habits you cultivate over years. But the first step is always the most important. And that first step is a conscious, firm decision to stop living in comfortable illusions and begin engaging with reality as it is, unvarnished. The world eagerly awaits individuals who think clearly, act purposefully, and lead wisely. The question that remains open is, will you be one of them? The answer to this question will be given not by your good intentions, but by your decisive actions. Not by what you know, but by what you do with what you know. Not by your grand plans, but by your relentless execution. The transformation begins now. The choice is yours. Was Machiavelli truly right? Does the path to true effectiveness indeed lie through such a seemingly cold and calculating approach? Or in this pursuit of unflinching intelligence, do we risk losing something far more valuable, our humanity? Share in the comments which of Machiavelli's principles you found most controversial and why. If this topic resonated with you, please give us a like. And to ensure you don't miss new reflections on great and contradictory ideas, subscribe to the channel. Here we seek truth where others see only darkness.